Welcome to the Republican Professor. I'm your host, Dr. Lucas J. Mather. It is Tuesday, 5 August 2025, years after Jesus. Recording outside today. Just got out of the pool. You might be able to hear the waterfall on. And we're going back to Duncan versus Bonta, the Banc dissent written by Judge VanDyke. You'll recall that Judge VanDyke's unique feature of his dissent is a link to a video of him in his chambers where he dumps out a bunch of guns in a tote bag. And so we didn't finish that last time, but we're going to finish the print part. I think we got to page 126, and I'm about to fire up a La Paulina, and it should be a 2021. I think this is an Oliva, so it's a pretty looking cigar there. They're not paid sponsors. It looks nice, and I got my Dennis Prager shirt on, courtesy of TRP podcast supporters, and as you can see, cigars are on the bottom there the t-shirt. So it's warm. Well, it's August. We got Writer's Tears Irish whiskey. They're not a paid sponsor, but it's a go-to, and we appreciate the support. We wouldn't be able to do this work and bring this work to you without this support. So much appreciated. Please keep it coming, because we're in California, and it's very difficult to do this work well here in California. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the link to the case, and we'll get started here. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to the Ninth Circuit website, which has a nice link to the text. We're on page 126. I will have the link to this in the description. All right, so let's get to it, okay? The majority's new constitutional test fails at the most basic level possible, the conceptual level. Its failure is not even related to anything particularly unique to firearms. The inherent interminability of categorizing constituent parts of a class of objects as either belonging to the class itself or, instead, merely functioning as unnecessary accessories to that class should be self-evident for almost everything from cars, doors, to cell phones, cameras, to cereal, marshmallows. Firearms are, of course, no different. The only difference is that the majority's test as applied to firearms is not just philosophically goofy, but it also has the very real and troubling result of denying Americans constitutional rights. It's so easy to demonstrate the conceptual failings of the majority's test, the majority's new test, that even a caveman with just a video recorder and a firearm could do it. Wow. For example, while the majority concedes that triggers are firearm components, do at least some Second Amendment protection, the majority's misguided test cannot support that conclusion. Even something as essential to the firearm as a manufacturer-issued trigger could be considered an unprotected accessory under the majority's view, because that particular trigger is not essential to the function of a firearm, as it could be swapped out for one less effective and therefore less dangerous attributes, with less dangerous attributes. This is a reductio ad absurdum form of argument here that he's using. The problem with the majority's misguided test is no different with respect to larger capacity magazines. My colleagues in the majority reason that a magazine is an integral part to the operation of a semi-automatic gun, and therefore that the Second Amendment's text encompasses a right to possess a magazine. I agree. But the majority also contends that a large capacity magazine is not necessary to operate any firearm and is therefore not an arm or a protected component. Okay, it's time for me to light up. I don't know about you, but after reading that, it's time for me to light up, buddy. And I'm sure you're watching. Thank you, Judge VanDyke, for writing this. Let's thank President Trump for putting VanDyke on the Ninth Circuit. Let's also thank the Republicans in the Senate. I'd like to give a special shout out to John Thune, who is a graduate of where he went to college, where I went to college as well, Biola University. It's a decent stick. Yeah, so John, please get these nominees through the Senate so that we can have some sanity, at least for a few dozen more years, hopefully. How are you guys doing today? Drop a comment if you have a comment about favorite cigars, favorite whiskey. How are you doing with the reading? Are you understanding this stuff? I'm putting together some playlists for you in the YouTube so that you have access to, you can follow the train of thought. You know, you can follow what we're doing here, maybe a little bit better. I don't know. Building a library that you can utilize. I think I'm going to put a playlist for the Second Amendment. Right now I only have a playlist for constitutional law. And as far as that goes, the Second Amendment would be underneath that. I also have statutory construction. We're going to work on that. Gender, philosophy. Got one on the interviews that I've done. Me and Curtis did. Me, Curtis, Adam, Jessica. Big shout out to my co-hosts, Curtis, Adam, Jessica. Big shout out to all the TRP supporters out there. I wouldn't be here without you guys. There's a whole community of people that have been behind this project, and we really appreciate it. No man is an island. All right, well, got the last days of summer here, so we're gonna make the most of it here. Let's press on, okay? And California defines a large capacity magazine as any magazine holding more than 10 rounds, but why stop there? Under the majority's rationale, any magazine that holds more than one round is not necessary for the function of the weapon. So presumably, California could also ban magazines holding 5 rounds, maybe even 2. I'm going to be, taking some puffs of this as I go. And why stop at magazines? According to the majority, because firearms operate as intended without a large capacity magazine. I mean, this is just insane. I think he's exactly right. This is a very important argument because he's searching for a limiting principle in the Democrat argument. Let's call it what it is. They haven't given a limiting principle besides their own discretion. And a Democrat thinks that their own discretion is the limiting principle. That's what bugs us. That was the problem with Otis versus McDonald. The Democrats that run Chicago entirely thought that his constitutional rights were completely defined by their own discretion. And so they told that black man, Otis McDonald, that one, the police are racist, and two, he had to wait for the police. They told him that at the same time. He could not be his first responder. He had to wait for the racist police. And that was what defined his constitutional rights. And they spent like $1 million making that argument in federal court. This is what we're dealing with. And that was not that long ago. It wasn't that long ago, man. I mean, they were making Klan arguments. I mean, the Democrats started the Klan. They were making Klan arguments in 2009, 2010. Unbelievable. Why stop at magazines? According to the majority, because firearms operate without intent. Okay. A large capacity magazine is not necessary to the ordinary functioning of a firearm. Large capacity magazines are not protected under the Second Amendment, according to the Democrat logic. But under that logic, basically every part of a firearm is optional, because each could be replaced with a less effective, aka less dangerous version of that part, and the firearm would still operate in some sense. Nor is it all clear what the majority means by as intended and ordinary functioning. Technically speaking, I suppose that would mean a grip or a sighting system is not protected component of a firearm, because those pieces are optional components not strictly necessary to make the gun fire a round. You catch me reading this off the screen. I do have the printout here, but I'm losing light here, so I'm trying to hurry this up. I don't mind doing multiple episodes to finish this up because it's important. Plus I have a couple of extra cigars, so we can just do cigar session. Some handguns come without any sights at all. We're on page 128. Those guns are obviously difficult to aim accurately. So does that mean California could ban all grips and sights under the majority test? After all, a magazine is only a box that by itself is harmless. A grip could be characterized as just a piece of polymer. A barrel is just a steel tube, and a bullet is just a small hunk of metal. Each of those pieces, just like every other individual part of a firearm, is benign and useless in combat for either offense or defense without the rest of the firearm. More basically, what do my amateur gunsmithing colleagues mean by operate as intended? Take a red dot optic. A firearm equipped with a red dot optic is intended to be operated more quickly and accurately than a firearm without one. He made this point in the Dissent video on YouTube, which we played in its entirety last time, and we analyzed it. Remember, the comments are turned off on this Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals YouTube video. Gee, I wonder why. This is the one. We're not going to play it again today. But the link to that one will be in this link. It will be linked in this opinion and also linked separately if you want. There it is. It's right there. It's on page 125. We're on 128. Again, he's making a reductio ad absurdum argument. We covered that last time. If you want to know the form of a reductio ad absurdum argument. It's oftentimes used as a deductive form of argument, but it can be used inductively as well. And so you have to change. If you use the induction or abduction, you just got to change the language. You can't say that you're aiming for complete truth preservation from premises to conclusion. I mean, maybe that's not a best way, but probability, you're aiming for probability. Obviously, you want your conclusion to be 100% true, but you may not be as certain of it given the premises, even if it's a good argument. So, you know, I mean, check out that last video that we did on, what was that? What day was that? 2 weeks ago. July 18th. We did that on July 18th? Oh, okay. 2 weeks ago. Check it out. Each of those pieces, just like every other part of the firearm, is benign unless useless in combat for either offense or defense without the rest of the firearm. More basically, what do my amateur gunsmithing colleagues mean by operate as intended? Take a red dot. Now, so he's going to say, could you ban the red dot? I suppose you could say a red dot optic is necessary to make the red dot optic equipped firearm operate as intended, but of course, like many parts of modern firearms, is not necessary at all if operate as intended means only the bare minimum functionality needed to send a bullet downrange. Is a red dot optic an unprotected accessory or a protected component under the majority's test? So what he's saying is the Democrats are saying if an accessory on a firearm is dangerous, then it can be banned. So he's saying, okay, let's run that down. You can ban all of the parts of the firearm under that logic. Reductio ad absurdum, that would mean that the Second Amendment protects nothing. It protects something that can fire one bullet or nothing at all. The Democrats are saying, well, yeah, sure, we wouldn't do that for political reasons, but it would be within our discretion to do that, and yeah, that's what the Second Amendment means. I mean, they say that with a serious face. As another example, most handguns have an automatic cycling mechanism that, upon firing, expels the spent cartridge, loads a new round, and resets the trigger. This came up in the oral argument where the Democrat lawyer for California didn't understand what he was talking about. He said that the automatic cycling mechanism only applied to fully automatic machine guns. And Judge VanDyke had to correct him and say, no, it's a term of art for both semi-automatic and automatic. The earliest Colts, for example, were called Colt automatics. Colt ACP, 45 ACP, 25 ACP, 32 ACP, 380 ACP, 40 Smith, no, 45 ACP. Tell me, drop a comment in the comments if you know what ACP stands for. In 1911, 45 ACP. Automatic Colt pistol. What the Democrat lawyer for California didn't understand was automatic means semi-automatic. And that's in 1911. Why is it called a 1911? Because that's the year that it was invented by John Browning. They started issuing it to the U.S. Army. Anyway, we cover, this is like basic firearm stuff. I mean, I don't want to, you guys all know this probably. Maybe you don't, I don't know. But if you don't, the A in ACP means automatic, and they were called Colt automatics, even though they were semi-automatics. So the term of art of semi-automatic came a little bit later, I think. And in any case, as Judge VanDyke says, plenty of firearms do not have an automatic cycling mechanism. The automatic cycling mechanism is necessary to make a semi-automatic firearm operate as intended, but it's not necessary to make, say, a revolver or bolt action or single shot break action firearm operate. I'm glad he said that, because there was a little bit of question. If you watch the video that he does, he has the Q&A. It almost sounds like he says a revolver is a semi-automatic, which, I was trying to read him as charitably as possible on that. I think I said he must mean a double action, and he must mean that if you redefine semi-automatic to mean that if it's loaded, a bullet can shoot with each operation of the trigger. Okay, a double action would fit that description, but semi-automatic refers to the automatic cycling mechanism typically, and a revolver has, let's say you're talking about a 6 capacity revolver, 6 round capacity revolver. Well then, if it's a double action revolver, each pull of the trigger will cycle the charging holes, the next charging hole. So really it has like 6 chambers. So it's not feeding a new bullet into the chamber, one chamber. It's really just turning around 6 chambers. Anyway, these terms of art, semi-automatic refers to one chamber. There's a magazine required, or a clip, if you want to get technical. An M1 Garand is semi-automatic, and it has a clip. But whatever is holding the bullets, either a clip or a magazine, a detachable magazine, there's one chamber, And there's an automatic cycling mechanism that, upon firing, expels the spent cartridge, which revolvers do not, loads a new round into that same chamber, and resets the trigger. That's what's meant. And revolvers don't do that. In any case, it's good to see in print that he knows the difference between a revolver and a semi-automatic. In the video, it's not quite clear, so, but we have the clarity here. So, good job, Judge VanDyke. And if you're still with us, great. Could California ban all semi-automatic handguns by applying the majority's logic that because the automatic cycling mechanism is not required to make a handgun work, it's simply not protected by the Second Amendment? The majority's test produces head-scratching results. On the one hand, the majority gives lip service to the fact that the meaning of arms broadly includes nearly all weapons used for armed self-defense, but on the other, its reasoning inevitably means that only the most dumbed down or basic version of any component part of a gun is protected, and many parts of a gun are entirely unprotected if they aren't strictly necessary to make a gun go bang. Oh man. Time for some puffs on this cigar. You guys know what the Ninth Circuit encompasses, right? I think Arizona. Are you guys listening? Who's in the Ninth Circuit? Utah? I don't know. Nevada? Nevada, clearly. Yeah, the Nevada's definitely in the Ninth Circuit. Oregon? Is Idaho? I don't know. All the western states. Washington, Alaska. Are you people in Alaska listening to this? Hawaii. We had Ellen Beck on the podcast, a Hawaii attorney who was in we covered some Hawaiian politics with Alan Beck, and also Second Amendment Foundation founder Alan Gottlieb. I'm a SAF lifelong member, and I was in Hawaii when Sam Slom was elected in the state senate for Hawaii Kai, I think. Kahala. I remember seeing his office in Kahala Mall, I think. I went to college in Hawaii. Lived there for several years. Spent my early marriage in Hawaii. I spent some time in Kahala Mall. I didn't live down there. It's a ritzy. That's the rich part of Honolulu. I had an uncle that lived there. I never really knew him. Uncle Ted. No, not Ted. Tony. Uncle Tony. Those who are very old will know. Tony goes back to World War II in Hawaii. Not Tony. Ted. Sorry, not Ted. Tony. He had a something called the Liquidator. He owned that. So he was rich. He lived in Hawaii Kai, I think, or Kahala. Alice, if you're listening, I don't even know if you're still alive. What's up? We lived in Waipio Gentry, so that's in the middle of the island. I lived downtown for a while too, though. And I went to college in Aiea. You could see the Aloha Stadium. I went to college on Hickam Air Force Base. I went to college on Kaneohe Marine Corps Station. I actually had a state and local government class on Kaneohe Marine Corps Station, and we covered the Second Amendment in that class. And it was a really bad coverage of that. That was in the 90s. That's how far we've come. But Sam Slom, he was a state senator, lone Republican, staunch supporter of the Second Amendment, co-founder of SAF with Alan Gottlieb, or maybe not co-founder, but definitely early supporter, early board member. You could check that episode out. That'll be in the Second Amendment playlist. But let's get back to the opinion. We'll do a little bit more today. Then I'm going to finish my cigar and watch the rest of this sunset. Okay, make the gun go bang. Similarly, the majority acknowledges that the Second Amendment must carry an implicit corollary right to bear the components or accessories necessary for the ordinary functioning of a firearm. But the obvious result of the majority's test is that almost all of the components, parts of a firearm would fall completely outside the Second Amendment because, in theory, any particular part could be replaced with a dumbed-down version of that same part. Guys, in California, we've lived through this line of thinking. And if you don't stop it in its tracks, it's coming for your state. It's coming for Arizona. It's already in Oregon. It's already in Washington. It's coming for Montana. It's coming for Nevada. It's coming for Alaska. I hope you're paying attention. Just talk to people in Hawaii, for God's sake. One of the first things I did when I brought my wife to Hawaii was take her to Cocoa Head shooting range, put a Glock in her hand, put a 6 Sauer in her hand. I was like, you're going to learn how to shoot, girl. You're going to learn how to load this sucker. All right. Well, I was fortunate. I was trained by the best in the Navy. Navy SEALs, buddy. On the Glock and on the Sig Sauer. Fort Ord. You gotta love it. Okay, that was back when it was a base. I'm dating myself, which is awkward because I can't marry myself. There's nowhere for this dating relationship to go. But the obvious result of the majority's test is that almost all the component parts of a firearm would fall completely outside of the Second Amendment because, in theory, any particular part could be replaced with a dumbed-down version of the same part. In another place, the majority suggests that any accessory performs a specific function that enhances a person's ability to fight or defend. So, the majority seems to acknowledge that its test devolves to exclude anything that enhances a firearm's operation, or, put more bluntly, anything that works too well. In the end, the majority's test boils down to something like this. The Second Amendment presumptively protects only the jankiest version of a firearm and a little bit of ammunition. 2.2 rounds? Sound familiar? And then he references his own Dissent in an earlier version of this saga. We're on page 130 at the top. Okay, this goes several more pages, and I think we've done enough for today. Oh, you know what? Let's go to Roman numeral 2. That's a natural stopping point. But how are you guys doing on this? The only way the majority can classify a large capacity magazine as an optional accessory is if it has some idea of what is and is not optional. Put differently, the majority must have at least some idea of what a standard firearm is. Good luck with that one, Judge. The majority's logic is premised on its assumption that there is some Platonic ideal of a firearm which I guess makes sense if you think judges are Platonic guardians of the Second Amendment. Okay. A little bit of a political philosophy, a little metaphysics and epistemology. Never hurt anybody. That's a nice job if you can get it, but it should be clear enough by now that many judges and gun-banning governments know next to nothing about how guns actually work, which perhaps explains why they would invent such an obvious, inadministrable test for guns, but never for any other constitutional right. Tell us how you really feel, Judge VanDyke. In the words of John Mayer, sorry, I had to relight my cigar. In the words of John Mayer, say what you need to say. 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 Good job, man. This Oliva is holding up. It's a La Palina 125 Años. And it says, I mean, it's 2021. That's what it says. But the reason I believe it's an Oliva is because I ordered Olivas, and this came with it. So, Cigar Page is not a sponsor. They're not a paid sponsor, but I do think that they do a pretty good job. And I also want to point out that Cigar Page, when they send a box, they put something patriotic in the box. They put it looked like a Patriots, like the football team. It looked like a patriotic thing they put in there, and I don't know why they did. I don't think I ordered it around July. No, I didn't order it around the 4th of July. I think they just put that in there. I mean, it's like, so, hey, I don't know where they're coming from, but it felt good when I opened the box. I don't know. Maybe they Googled me before they sent it. I highly doubt it. Okay, let's continue. We'll finish this up. Ultimately, just as with televisions and sewing machines, there's no such thing as a stock part basic firearm, unadorned, without any accessories that constitute the only arm protected under the Second Amendment. There are many parts that constitute the arm, most of which usually can be swapped out to emphasize and improve certain functions over others. Consider, for example, heavier grips that make a gun steadier when shooting versus lighter ones that are easier to conceal or carry, just as the First Amendment doesn't apply only to necessary or essential speech. The Second Amendment cannot apply only to firearms containing just those parts that a state like California deems essential and necessary. Instead, what constitutes the arm includes every functional component and not only the most downgraded version of a necessary component. And then he's quoting precedent there in the Ninth Circuit. And that's the end of Roman numeral 1. We're in Roman numeral 2. And Roman numeral 2 goes from page 131 and following. And it's not like hard reading. I mean, for me, it's not hard reading. Maybe it is for you, in which case, welcome. You can make progress. Don't worry. Roman numeral 2 goes to page 140. So we'll do that next time. And then Roman numeral 3 goes to the rest, which is only about 7 pages. It's actually nicely spaced out, Judge VanDyke. Nice job. And I hope you're enjoying this, and I hope you're enjoying America, man. I'm looking forward to next year, our 250th birthday. Thanks for joining me on the Republican Professor podcast. It's Tuesday, 5 August, 2025, years after Jesus, I'm outside in California, got the waterfall going, and the water was warm. I even put the snorkel mask on, and I enjoy doing that. Just seeing whoever did the individual that did the surfacing of the bottom of this pool, they did a fantastic job. It's so much better than 20 years ago. It holds the heat, and it's a wonderful. I'm looking at palm trees. I'm looking at waterfall. I'm looking at a spa. It's a beautiful little lagoon thing. I'm so thankful we live in America. I'm so grateful for our supporters and people that believe and understand the Second Amendment. Guys, I'm going to sign off and finish my cigar. Take care.